workshop on interoperability in action. This workshop today is about interoperability of social protection information system with disability registry. So my name is Henri Picard. I'm a Chief Technical Advisor and head of the unit that is called Actuarial Services Unit in the Social Protection Department of the ILO. It may look a bit awkward to see actuarial services unit and interoperability of social protection system, but since over 3 years now, we are involved in the implementation of management information system in my unit because actuarial valuation, I mean, the data, proper data or sufficient and reliable data are the cornerstone of actuarial valuation. So this is why we are quite involved also in management information system. The agenda for today, after my short introduction, there will be a 30-minute presentation and demonstration of interoperability between social protection MIS and disability registry. It will be followed by a 50-minute lightning talks from countries and global perspective, followed by a discussion, 20-minute discussion on open discussion, and there will be a conclusion at the end of the meeting today. Before starting, some housekeeping rules. First, please ask your question in the Q&A box that you will see on your screen. Share any comments or resources in the chat. And finally, note that the session will be recorded. Next slide, please. The Digital Convergence Initiative is a joint effort by USP 2030 members and non-members, governments, development partners, and private sectors toward creating a harmonized and interoperable digital ecosystem for social protection. The objective is to build a consensus-based standard for interoperability in order to foster an ecosystem for innovation for ICT solution providers to build products that are interoperable, that are easy to use, easy to integrate, easy to maintain, and easy to scale up. It is also in order to reduce time and cost of developing solution at the country or program level. It is also to enable program and countries to mix and match different components from different suppliers. And finally, it is to ensure that systems are future-proof by design, regardless of their current levels of policy and information systems maturity. Next slide. The Interoperability in Action workshop, these are a series of workshops to demonstrate live the interoperability of social protection MIS with other systems for effective and efficient delivery of social protection programs. It is an opportunity to do a deep dive into one interface showcasing social protection system interaction with other systems such as payment system, civil registry and vital statistics system, ID, farmer registry, and disability registry. It is an opportunity to share the understanding of process workflow, data elements, and technical APIs that are required for interoperability. It is an opportunity to create awareness on the benefits of interoperability through use cases. Also to demonstrate live the interoperability using digital public goods for some use cases, and also to hear from the stakeholders and subject matter experts on the topic. Next slide. As I mentioned, this is the fifth workshop of a series. There were 4 previous workshops. The first one was on interoperability with CRVS. The second one that we had was with interoperability with payment system. The third one was with interoperability in the identification system. And the most recent one was interoperability with the farmer registries. You can listen to these workshops if you follow the link at the bottom of the slides. The steering committee of the Digital Convergence Initiative is composed of ILO, World Bank, and GIZ. As you see here, there are many systems that are at play when it comes to social protection program delivery and its interoperability with the others existing system. The other existing system, there are many of them, as you see here on the slides. There, it goes from social registry to GIS platform to grievance redressal mechanism, payment platform, and many other sectoral information systems such as tax, financial management, agriculture, education, health. Today's workshop will focus on one of them, which is the disability registry. So now I will hand over for the moderation of the workshop to Anita Mittal. Anita is a senior advisor at GIZ that leads the Digital Convergence Initiative. She has extensive experience in the design and implementation of identification system for client countries at the World Bank and e-governance applications in India. Earlier, she has also led e-governance interoperability and standards project for the Ministry of ICT in the government of India. So I hand over to you, Anita. Thanks.
Thanks, Andre. Thank you so much for setting the context of this workshop that we are doing. And with this, I'll take the audience further with respect to the current workshop, which is on the disability registry interacting with social protection systems. So just we want to focus on a few facts to contextualize why we are looking at the disability registry interacting with social protection. You will see that 1 billion people worldwide, which amounts to about 15% of the global population, have a disability. And 80% of people with disabilities are living in developing countries. 1 in 5%, which is about 20% of the people living in poverty, have a disability. And the assistance that is required for the people with disabilities varies widely, depending on the factors like type of disability, percentage of disability, and many other factors. We also see that countries have social protection programs that cater to the people with disabilities. So some of the programs, whether be it contributory or non-contributory, either they are exclusively for people with disabilities, providing them cash in kind or devices or subsidies or enhanced services. So if there is a health insurance program, you may be providing more services, more benefits to a person with disability versus a normal person. Then there are caregiver programs for people with disabilities, and you also have programs where caregivers for the disabled people are given cash so that the needs of the people with disabilities are taken care of. While so many programs exist, the needs and the assessment of the needs of these people is not very easy because the number of parameters which normally are captured in systems like social registry are very limited. So it is with this context that quite a few countries have started setting up disability registry, which can capture detailed information of these people. So what does this database of people with disabilities, which is a disability registry, contain? It collects and maintains accurate and detailed data on the people with disabilities. You will see some of the attributes which they store in the following slide. Now, with this data, you are able to provide uh, targeted assistance to these people, identify them and identify their needs. Having identified them and their needs based on the type of disability, the type of support system they have at their household, what can be done, the type of jobs that they can do, All these needs assessment will help to design policies and programs to ensure that these people are included and we build a society of shared prosperity, bringing them up and reaching the most vulnerable section of the society through the social protection programs, through adequate support and the needed support. So if you look at the,
Anita, I think you muted yourself accidentally.
sorry, yeah. So if you look at a disability registry, it contains information on the person, which is name, age, gender, contact details, the type of disability, whether it's a physical disability or intellectual or mental or some other developmental disability, some medical history of the person, functional limitations, what is the percentage of limitation, then support services that are already being received by the person, what are the needs for accessibility, needs for employment, education, or what are their capabilities with respect to each of these. So the parameters which each country or each disability registry carries may vary, but these are typical parameters which are kept in this disability registry. Now we know that social protection programs vary widely, and there could be programs which are catering to the people with disabilities, providing with them with disability benefits or healthcare services, education support, employment assistance, providing them devices, assistive devices like wheelchair, hearing aids, or communication aids, or many other programs like housing assistance, transportation subsidies, caregiver support. All these services are being provided. But when you want to make decisions, excuse me, with regard to eligibility or the needs of this person, it is the disability registry which can provide all this data to the social protection program based on interoperability with the disability registry. And now I will invite the team from Access Health, which is supporting the DCI initiative, to show interoperability in action by first listing some of the use cases on how the business process flow could work with respect to interoperability, and then demonstrate live the power of interoperability through the demo in our sandbox. So you can all see the names. I'm not listing each one of them. With this, now I invite Parth to kick off the use case. So over to you, Parth. You can start sharing your screen and
Yes, hi. Thanks, Anita. Okay, so now we will showcase the interoperability between the social protection MIS, the disability registry, the social registry, and the daycare system through a practical example of daycare services program registration. This demonstration is based on the Vikas scheme from India. Dimitri, a person with disabilities, intends to apply for daycare services scheme. Now Dimitri submits an application using his disability ID or unique identification number, that is UIN. Utilizing the interoperability, the SPMI sends a request to the disability registry to retrieve Dimitri's disability registration details. The SPMIS makes an API request to the disability registry, providing Dimitri's disability ID or UIN. In response, if the disability ID or UIN is valid, the disability registry provides essential personal information such as name, UIN, age, gender, as well as disability specific details like disability type, functional limitation, disability percentage, etc. These details are crucial for evaluating eligibility and assisting the daycare center in making necessary preparations. Once the disability-related information is obtained from the disability registry, Dimitri's poverty score needs to be assessed. To accomplish this, the SPMIS, utilizing the interoperability, makes an API request to the social registry using Dimitri's UIN. In return, the social registry provides the poverty score. Now, if the SPMIS determines based on the poverty score that Dimitri falls under the category of poor, both eligibility criteria are met, and Dimitri can proceed to the next step, which is selecting a daycare center. Drawing upon the details received earlier from the disability registry, the SPMIS intelligently recommends the daycare centers based on Dimitri's location and required disability services. Once the daycare center is selected, the SPMIS sends an enrollment request to the center, which may include necessary preparation details. In the response, the daycare system confirms the enrollment. With this, the enrollment process is completed and the social protection program notifies Dimitri accordingly. The demonstration environment has been set up in the DCI sandbox environment, incorporating multiple systems that correspond to the social protection programs, disability registry, social registry, and the daycare system. These systems seamlessly interact with each other using APIs and data standards, ensuring smooth communication based on predefined parameters. In this demonstration, we have integrated social protection program, disability registry, social registry, and the daycare system to showcase the interoperability. Now let's look at the live demonstration. Dimitri decides to apply for benefits and visits the website dedicated for the daycare services scheme. Website to apply using disability ID or his UIN. After entering his UIN, Dimitri is prompted to provide his consent by reviewing and accepting the terms and conditions section. Once he provides his consent, he proceeds by clicking the apply button. By doing so, the eligibility check process is initiated. In the background, the SPMI sends a request to the disability registry utilizing Dimitri's UIN to retrieve his disability registration details. In the response, the disability registry provides Dimitri's personal details as well as information related to his disabilities. In this case, it is evident that Dimitri has multiple disabilities. Each disability is accompanied by a record of functional limitation, type, percentage, support services utilized, and accessibility needs, all of which are visible on the screen. Once the relevant disability-related records are found and the eligibility criteria are met, system can proceed to the next stage, which involves the poverty score assessment. As a part of the background process, the SPMIS requests Dimitri's poverty score from the social registry, again using his UIN. If the poverty score indicates that Dimitri falls below the poverty line, confirming his economic need, then both eligibility criteria have been met. System then proceeds to the next step, which involves selecting a daycare center. Based on the information previously obtained from the disability registry, the SPMIS recommends daycare centers that are suitable for Dimitri's location and his specific disability-related requirements. However, Dimitri has the flexibility to choose the location and choose the daycare center of his preference. Once he has made that selection, he submits the application, completing the enrollment process. Now let's examine the logs that provide insight into the background processes mentioned during the eligibility checks. Within the logs, we can observe the timestamp of API request made a few minutes ago, Dimitri's UIN being sent as a part of the request, and the disability details, including multiple disabilities with their respective ICD codes, which are retrieved from the disability registry. With that, we conclude the demonstration of daycare services registration process using interoperability. I now hand over to Rajdeep, who will showcase the second demo, focusing on monthly allowance for disabled minor.
Thank you, Parth. We will now demonstrate the interoperability of SPMIS with a disability registry, social registry, and the payment system through a demonstration of a monthly allowance for a disabled minor. This use case is based on Chile's social protection scheme. Rita, who is 10-year-old child with disability, intends to apply for this scheme. Now, Rita or someone on her behalf can submit an application using her disability ID or unique identification number. Utilizing interoperability, the SP system sends a request to a disability registry to retrieve Rita's disability registration details. The SPMIS make a API request to a disability registry providing Rita's disability ID or UIN. In return, if disability ID or UIN is valid, the disability registry provides essential personal information such as name, UIN, age, gender, as well as disability registration related details like disability ID, type, and percentage. These details are critical for assessing eligibility. Once the disability related information is obtained from disability registry, RITA's poverty score needs to be assessed. To accomplish this, the SPMIS, utilizing interoperability, makes an API request to a social registry using RITA's UIN. In return, social registry provides the poverty score. Now, if the SPMIS identify RITA as a poor based on a poverty score, the system using interoperability makes a API request to a payment system using RITA's UIN to check for any linked bank account and determines if it is payable. Now, the eligibility criteria are met, RITA is successfully enrolled. The SP system can confirm her enrollment. Based on the monthly payment cycle, the SPMIS will send a disbursement list for the beneficiaries enrolled in the scheme, including RITA. The payment system will exclude the uh, execute the disbursement list and initiate the payment transfer to the beneficiary's account. Okay. As with the previous use case, the demonstration environment in a DCI sandbox has been configured to include multiple systems related to social protection program, disability registry, social registry, and the payment system. Let's take a look at the live demonstration. Rita applies for a benefits under the scheme monthly allowance for disabled minor using her disability ID or UIN. Upon entering her UIN, she prompted to provide her consent by reviewing, accepting the terms and conditions. Once she provides her consent, Rita proceeds by clicking the apply button. This action initiates the eligibility check process in the background. The SPMI sends a request to a disability registry utilizing this Rita's UIN to retrieve her disability registration details. In return, disability registry provides her personal details and disability related information. In this case, disability records contain details such as disability ID, disability type, percentage as shown on the screen. Once the relevant disability related records it found and eligibility criteria are met, system then proceeds to a next step, which involves a poverty score assessment. As a part of after the background process, the SPMIS requests Rita's poverty score from social registry using her UIN. Social registry returns the poverty score for Rita, and SPMIS proceeds to a next step. Using interoperability, the system makes API request to a payment system using Rita's UIN to check for any linked bank account and determines if it is payable. Once all the eligibility criteria have been met, Rita is successfully enrolled. Based on the monthly cycle, the SP system generates a disbursement list for the beneficiary enrolled in this scheme. To demonstrate this process, we will log into the system as an admin. Let's take a look in Rita's bank account. Rita currently have a 50 amount in her bank account. Next, payment system execute the disbursement list, initiate the bank transfer to the beneficiary's account, including Rita's account. The payment will reflect in the Rita's bank account accordingly. With that, we conclude the demonstration of a monthly allowance for a disabled minor registration process using interoperability. Now I hand over to Shefali, who will showcase the third use case which involves enrolling in the benefits of a newborn.
Thanks, Rajdeep. So now let's explore the third use case, showcasing how interoperability can proactively assist the newborns with disabilities in accessing the benefits. So in this scenario, we observe the seamless connection between the CRVS system and the disability registry. So when a disabled child is born, the CRVS system automatically sends the periodic notifications to the disability registry, including specific details such as the child's birth registration number, name, date of birth, gender, disability type, functional limitation type, and the parent's UIN of the disabled newborn. The disabled registry then proceeds to register the child in its system. And furthermore, the disability registry shares the details of the newly registered disabled child with the Social Protection Management Information System, that is the SPMIS. And utilizing this information, the SPMIS retrieves the child's family poverty score and the household size by sending the parent's UIN to the social registry. With these additional details at hand, the SPMIS assesses whether the child belongs to the poor family or not and determines its eligibility for the benefits. If the SPMIS determines that the child meets the eligibility criteria, it initiates the communication with the family to provide them with the designated benefits, right? So this proactive approach ensures that the disabled newborns are identified promptly, registered in the disability registry, evaluated for the eligibility, and subsequently offer the appropriate benefits through the coordinated efforts between the CRVS system, disability registry, social registry, and the SPMIS. So now was for the third use case. Now I would hand it over to Apurva, who will showcase you the fourth use case, which involves the enrolling in benefits using the case management. So over to you, Apurva.
Thanks, Shefali. So now let's explore the fourth use case, showcasing how interoperability can proactively assist case management for providing disability benefits. In this scenario, next slide. In this scenario, we observe a seamless connection between the SP system and the disability registry, and the SP system subscribes to any new registration that occur in the disability registry. When a person with disability is registered in the disability registry, the SP system automatically receives periodic or real-time notifications. These notifications contain crucial information such as name, unique identification number, age, gender, as well as disability specific details like disability ID, type, functional limitation, disability percentage, and more. Utilizing this information, the SP system retrieves the family poverty score and household size by sending the beneficiaries UIN to the social registry. With these additional details at hand, the SPMIS decides whether the person with disability belongs to a poor family and determines their eligibility for the benefits. The SP system uh, incorporates a case management module that utilizes the data received from the registries to identify the need and creates a customized case plan
just forwarded.
based on the inputs from the case manager. Once a tailored case plan is created and the eligibility for disability benefits is determined, the SP system can proceed with enrolling the beneficiary in various SP schemes outlined in the case plan. For instance, if a disability is caused by an occupational hazard, the beneficiary can be initially enrolled in a daycare service for caregiving. Financial support through disability grants can be initiated, and after providing vocational training, the beneficiary can also be enrolled for unemployment benefits while actively seeking employment opportunities. With this, we conclude our discussion on the use cases. I will now hand it over to Dhananjay, who will explore the subjects related to data standards, code directories, and APIs. The floor is yours, Dhananjay. Thank you.
Thank you, Apurva. I will now take you through the details of data standards and API specifications. During the demonstration, you saw how interoperability enables seamless communication between SP system and disability registry and facilitating data exchange between both. The system interoperability necessitates a comprehensive understanding of a data standards and the code directory by the SP system. As a part of DCI initiative, we are establishing interoperability in terms of data standards, data elements, their corresponding code directories with value sets and API specifications. As you can see here, we are defined data standard for capturing details about disabled individuals. These standards encompass information such as an ID, personal detail like a name, birth date, gender, and disability information. Additionally, we have created code directory for disability type, which will provide a list of possible disability types. In addition to data standards, we are also developing APIs to demonstrate the system interoperability through the request and response mechanisms. Some of the APIs we are showcasing here is Disable API, Get Person's Disability Info API, and Search by Disability API. The Is Disability API allows for checking the disability status of an individual based on their unique identification number. The response from this API includes Is Disabled flag, indicating whether the person is disabled or not. Another API we have developed is the Get Person's Disability Info. It accepts UI as an input and retrieves the detailed information of a disabled person. The third API, Search by Disability, is designed to search for a disabled individual in a disability registry. It accepts parameters such as disability type, location, and disability percentage to filter the data from disability registry. The response includes a list of disabled individuals matching specified criteria. We can see here the search request had responded with one record, and if there will be multiple records, it will be in the list. We are actively working on developing various APIs that will prove useful in multiple scenarios to promote interoperability among the different systems. That concludes our overview of APIs and data standards. Now I will hand it over to Komal. Thank you.
Thank you, Dhananjay, for providing the details on the data model. I'll take a minute to share my screen.
Oh, no, this is you.
I hope my screens are visible.
Yes.
Thank you. I would now like to invite our country representative from Chile, who is Veronica Aca Alvarez. She is Head of Social Information Analysis Department, Ministry of Social Development and Family from Chile. Veronica, over to you.
Thank you. Hello to everyone. It's very nice to be here today with you. Well, just to give a quick look of our country, Chile is located in South America. Is that thin line, red line on the map? We are around almost 20 million people right now, mostly urban people, over 88% of the population, mostly women, 50.7% of the population are women, and most of us are adults or people over 15 years old. And regarding the social protection system, we have the social registry of households, and this registry has more than 17 million people, which is almost 48% of the population is part of this social registry in Chile. Next, please. Thank you. Well, about the disability registry in Chile, this registry contains information of all individuals that have been declared disabled by a commission named COMPIN. People has to apply for this study and declaration. And after that, if they receive this elimination as of this acknowledgement as a person with disability, they can express their willingness to be registered in the disability registry. It's not an automatical step, but a decision from each person. To apply to be part of the disability, to be acknowledged as a person with a disability. Next, please. The applicant must submit a file with some background information, in particular about 3 main topics. First, a treating professional from different areas, a physician, occupational therapist, physiotherapist, has to fill a report, a complete report with a patient medical history, diagnosis, all the diagnosis to be part of the study. Also, the person needs to fill to include a social worker form with the analysis of the social situation. And also, COMPIM completes a report based on an international standard, IVADEC, with the assess of the individual's activities of daily living in their disability situation. So with these 3 steps, the COMPIM make a decision about the situation of the person in terms of the needs. If the person receives this acknowledgement and is part of the disability registry, can have access to several benefits, in particular through the National Disability Service, which is a public service dependent on our ministry. But also the person may have access to other social benefits. For example, people may apply for technical and social assistance programs, funds, housing subsidies, and social benefits associated with this condition. Also can has access to exclusive parking lots on the streets, specific for people with disabilities. Also, they may receive reduction on vehicle importation. There's special vehicles with a particularities to help them to drive. Also, they can access benefits targeted for people with disabilities provided by by Senadis, this public institution, and other institutions that use this information to make a decision about benefits. They can be exempt from vehicle restriction when we have some issues on the cities, and that restrict the use of a car. People with disabilities are exempt from that restriction. And they can also accompany children with serious illnesses, which is a benefit that the rest of the population don't have. They can have access to student scholarships and benefits related with transportation. Those are some examples. Next, please. So regarding the information how it works with the civil registry and the social registry, a person with a disability that, for example, need access to the certification or the ID declaring the disability may ask in person or through a website or download this information or the certificate themselves through web pages connecting to the civil registry. Let's go ahead next. Or, for example, through Tilatiende, which is another institution that operates offices through all the country. Individuals, people can approach them to request several procedures, including the generation of the disability certificate. Next. Next. I think 4 or 5 nexts. As you mentioned on some of the previous examples, to ask for this information, we have the unique national ID. So people with this information, this personal information, makes the request, for example, through the website, and they receive the disability certification as an answer. In the field of social protection, institutions that have agreements with the civil registry can directly connect to the civil registry, which is the institution that handles the information of the disability registry. And we can, and these institutions can access to this information through web services to inquire for a specific person or individual and obtain the certificate information or the certificate itself. And this, what the institution receives depends on the need. Some institutions download the certification, and other institutions downloads only the information, the data related with the percentage of disability and the type of disability. Well, as I was saying, in the social protection system, our ministry in particular, here down, we connect with the civil registry in 2 ways, through online web services. So for some purposes, we have this alternative, and also we use monthly scheduled processes via SFTP to have big amounts of information, big data. This information with the characteristics of each person and the disability registry is integrated into the household registry, and it is a component in determining the socioeconomic classification of the household. Yes. And the way it operates is by recognizing the higher cost individuals with disabilities and families with disabilities face in their daily lives. And therefore, it acknowledges their increased vulnerability by lowering this socioeconomic classification. So as you showed previously, most of these people with disability is recognized as poorer people than people without it. In addition to its use in socioeconomic classification, we provide, as a ministry, from the social registry, we provide information about the disability of people to other public services that have an agreement with us, for them to use this information to determine eligibility for their benefits. And some of them use just the mark of being part of the disability registry. And on some others use more information as the type of disability, the percentage of disability. And we share that information with these public organizations through web services for most of them. But for some of them that are not able yet to have this interoperability, we use batch processes through SFTP. I think that summarizes how it works here in Chile. Thank you. We can't hear you, Komal.
Komal, you're still on mute.
Let me fill in. Komal is probably having technical challenges. So thank you, Veronica. Okay.
Go ahead, Anita.
Take over.
Thank you, Veronica. I'm not sure how I got muted, but thank you so much for sharing insights from Chile. It was really insightful. I would like to now invite Felician. Give me a minute. Let me share my screen one more time. Felician from Rwanda. He's a social protection advisor from GIZ Social Protection Project, taking lead on Rwanda. Felician, over to you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be part of this audience. I will just share with you the power of interoperability with data systems between the social protection systems and the disability registry, the use case of Rwanda. Rwanda is a country, a landlocked country in Africa, part of Central Africa of African continent. In Rwanda, we have different data systems and the various social protection services and the benefits are provided through different programs. Next. Okay. I want to take you through disability registry here in Rwanda, but before we go on, I would just take brief about the disability issues in Rwanda. We have different persons with disability in Rwanda, and we have one organization in charge of disability mobilization, National Council of Persons with Disability, NCPD in short. Normally, even though many programs and services are provided, there are various issues related to data about disability. Normally, Rwanda has ratified various conventions for promoting disability related services and benefits, including UNCRPD and other conventions. Even you have different policies aligned with social protection and disability. We are lacking various standard mode of identifying persons with disability, whereby the recent identification of person with disability was done 8 years ago, but fortunately we developed a system, disability management information system. And of course, we are lacking in knowledge, a deep knowledge about barriers and needs, especially including the assistive device. Those are needed by persons with disability in Rwanda. Most of persons with disability have different special needs that should be addressed unless we understand their needs. There are some lucky absence of international standard tools. We lacked such kind of international tools to identify persons with disability. Even though we have some baseline on persons with disability through census or other surveys, mostly in the national census, we lacking data about children under 5 years old. Next. Now, in Rwanda, we developed disability registry in the form of disability management information system. This system has been developed for identifying persons with disability, the needs, and the management of service delivery, especially the case management for most need who are in need of various benefits and services. Normally, this DMIS, Disability Management Information System, is an innovative tool support for identification, registry of persons with disability in Rwanda, and the case management support for those who are most in need. It will serve also in evidence-based inclusive policies. Policies should be based on realistic data about persons with disability. The system will help us also to increase the accountability in service delivery and the management of interventions. It will also improve the better coordinations of various organizations, national and international, intervening in disability programs. All those will ultimately improve the life conditions of persons with disability in Rwanda. Next. This is the screenshot of the homepage of DMIS. This DMIS, apart from identifying registry and support management of services and benefits, we have a limitation profile, a digital limitation profile, which comes in a form of disability certification, which comes in a form of a card summarizing the functional limitations and the socioeconomic status of persons with disability. We have a dynamic interactive dashboards for listing and reading various disability indicators for various purposes, available for public and other development partners. We have also a case management module where some special cases should be flagged, sent to the case management module to be to take care of those cases in emergency cases. Next. Now, the power of interoperability is in need in Rwanda. Apart from the disability registry we developed, we are developing now a social registry information system for Rwanda, social registry system in Rwanda, which will be a central data system that shall be connected to other data systems in Rwanda, including the disability registry. In between, you have this SRIS, social registry information system in Rwanda, that is already connected to one or data system, LODA MEIS VUP data systems, which is already holding various household data in Rwanda, which is commonly used for targeting determination of eligibilities of various benefits to various social protection systems, including disability. The system also is ready to connect with RSSB, CBHI, which is managing various health insurance cases here in Rwanda. The ACRIS is ready also to connect with integrated social protection MIS, integrated social protection MIS, ISP MIS, for data sharing from different data systems intervening in social protection. The system will be connected also to financial institutions from the National Bank of Rwanda and other institutions for having the fully household socioeconomic profile. The system will be connected also with the CRVS for dynamism nature of the system to regularly update the system for the new birth, the death and marriage. CRIS is also connected with the National Identification Agency, NIDA, from which all Rwandans have their profile there, where we have now a unique national ID, which will serve as a primary key for the individuals. We have also another system, National Land Authority, just to know the houses, land plots associated to household or individual. The system will be also connected to Rwanda Revenue Authority for the purpose of checking how many household and the household members are employed, how much they are paying taxes, mostly for those who are running business and so on. Normally, this power of interoperability within data systems, it's under process. There are some data systems connected to social registry and the disability registry, but others are under negotiations because some legal framework will be taken into account and some data agreement, sharing agreement shall be negotiated and discussed among those different entities because it is not plug and play, it goes through process where DCI, Digital Convergence Initiatives, is called upon, and we are fortunate to be part of the platform where some advice will be asked from you to harmonize this data interoperability among our data systems. Next. Next, please. Now, the use case. Please come back to previous slide. Okay, the use case, I would briefly take you through this LODA monitoring evaluation information system, which is currently used where we are migrating household profile data from LODA MEIS to the social registry. Normally, this LODA MEIS was used for over 6-7 years ago and is still using, but we are shifting from this LODA MEIS, especially for household data profile, into social registry. Normally, under this social registry, we migrate, we take the household data base into social registry, and from this, we validate those data, and each household is assigned of what you call household welfare score. Household welfare score, which is a metric or index assigned to each household according to its socioeconomic status, normally to disaggregate household according to the poverty level and needs. Next. This is the process, targeting a process within social registry we are developing. Normally, we migrated data from LODA MEIS into social registry, and from this, we validate data, household profile data. Then we check if there is a duplication among household data. We validate and we rectify those data so that if the data are accurate, we upload this into social registry where the household welfare score will be applied as a metric to in a rate of ratio to say, for example, this household is 60% and all it is 30% and so on. That will disaggregate those households according to the poverty and needs. And of course, within this system, we have some cases when there is complaints, there are grievances should be managed. And finally, we shall have beneficial lists after applying the eligibility criteria. Beneficial list will be presented to the community for validation because the final validation will be done by the community. We generate the list from the system, the social registry, and finally the list is printed out and presented to the community. The discussion among the community will provide the final validation of beneficiaries. Next. Now, the way forward for this interoperability features among data systems in Rwanda. Normally, we have a need for data common data standards. Different data systems have been developed according to various technology stack, and of course, including various data features and structures, where we need to see how we should harmonize our data systems. We refer it to the standard data features. We need also to look at data exchange protocols, the standard one, and some discussion should be discussed, and we look at this protocol to be properly defined. We should also look at data security and privacy because this interoperability will come through cross-domain interoperability, meaning that various sectors, health, education, and so on will be exchanging data. We should always be sure data security and privacy is there. We should also strengthen intelligence collaboration, means data sharing agreement should be clearly established and discussed upon to have a common understanding which data, how and when shall be exchanged among social protection, disability registry, and the other data systems. Okay, next, which is the last one?
This is the last one, Felician.
Okay, thank you very much. This is briefly what we have here in Rwanda, and we are open to get various intervention and observations among this initiative we have here in Rwanda. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Felician. Thanks, and I appreciate your insights on Rwanda. I would like to now invite, our next guest to share the country inputs on Egypt. Andre Tretiak. He's a senior social protection specialist from World Bank Group. Over to you, Andre.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to participate in today's meetings and to have a lot of very useful insight. So I would like to start that actually in the World Bank we have the commitment on disability inclusion, which was committed after the Global Disability Summit 2018, and we have different commitment concerning different practice, but especially social protection and jobs. By 2025, we have to have around 75% of projects which should be disability inclusive. And so my job is to work on this disability inclusion throughout the social protection and job. And I'm here. I'm happy that we're here presented together with the Nahla, who is a focal point, especially in the MENA country, and I think Gustavo is connected with Global Lead on the Pension. We are working together on ensuring this disability inclusion. To be brief, that you know that social registry and management information system is concerned and is we are working a lot in the World Bank on these topics. For instance, on the active project, we have now the 57 project on the social registry and around 60 project on management information system, and most of the project dealing with the introduction of social registry are in the sub-Saharan African country. So of course, when we are speaking about interoperability between the management information system of social protection and the disability registry, we need to take into account the maturity of the system. It was said already today by the colleagues that we, of course, we need to take into account how the management of management information system on social protection is acting in the country. In some country, we are starting only with some database about the cash transfer. In some country, we have already integrated social registry, which can deal with intake, registration, assessment of need and conditions for multiple program. In some countries, we have integrated beneficiary registry, which can manage the enrollment for multiple program. And in some country, most of the example we had today, it's like integrated social protection information system, which can combine the integrated social registry and the integrated beneficiary registry. But at the same time, we have to assess the maturity of the disability assessment and the registry, because we know that in most of the country we're still using the medical assessment, and in some country we are trying to use already the functional assessment instrument, but it's not widespread yet. And of course, ideal situation for us, it's to have, like in the presentation today, to have the perfect interoperability between the integrated social protection information system and the disability registry based on medical and functional assessment, covering the entire population, based on unique identified number. But all of us know that the reality is different. First of all, in a lot of the low-income countries, we have a quite poor adequacy between the disability-related program. So the people are simply not going to be registered in the disability registry because they don't have any services. So we don't have the administrative data about this person if the adequacy of the program are quite poor. In the other hand, if the programs start to be interesting and more generous, you have more pressure to obtain the status of disability, and you have sometimes the arbitrary decision which can be made to attribute the status of disability. We have a lot of countries which are still working on the paper-based disability registry, and when you are operating the interoperability, you need to bring the paper to social registry, proving that you are a person with disability. And finally, well, last but not least, in both registry, you can have inconsistent data. The most common problem with the disability data is sometimes we are not reporting the death. And of course, if you have all these interoperability examples we had today, perfect examples, it should work. But we know that in most countries it doesn't work. So this is why we thinking that the social registry and the country, especially in the low and in middle income country. Sorry, we have some problem with the. So the social registry can be used as a tool for progressive universality. How we can use it? Because if we are introducing the social registry, we are trying to pay attention how we address and how we register the information about the person with disability inside of the social registry. We have some country which use the self-identification, for instance. We know this is not perfect, but in Tanzania, productive social safety nets program, we use the self-identification as a disability or identification by social worker based on some arbitrary criteria. We have most important examples is the medical assessment, and if we can organize the interoperability, it's good. But sometimes we only ask to bring some administrative proofs. In some countries, we started already to use some functional, as I said, some functional assessment. For instance, for the entry to the social registry in Haiti, we are using the Washington Group short set of questions, which are starting to analyze the functional assessment. It's not perfect for the individual data and for the assessment, because this tool is mainly developed for the surveys and census, but well, still it can be considered as the first step if we don't have a reliable data, administrative reliable data with other functional system. And of course, the best tool developed on day, it's WHO disability assessment schedule, which is called commonly HUDAS version 2. What we're using in our project in Romania and Albania, it's more in the middle income country. So based on this, if we are seeing the social registry, the entry progressive universality and for awareness rising about disability problem in the country, we can start with the analyzing how we register the person with disability inside of this tool, and afterwards to see how we can organize how we can ensure the income security, of course, and starting from the probably poorest household, and as it was mentioned today, often the poverty and disability are related in different countries, and we can afterwards provide, based on the social registry, some top up for covering the extra cost. Either we're providing this top up in the cash, or we can do it as a link to other inclusive programs, such as link to assistive devices, services, human supporters, as you say. And once again, we are not, when we are working on that, we are not replacing the disability registry. But if in the country there is a good functioning disability registry, we can start to work to provide the interoperability. But sometimes we can use this entry point by social registry in order to create this disability registry, and this is why I would like to present today the example of Egypt as an example how progressively we started from the covering poorest part of the population with disability assessment based on functional assessment, and now it's going beyond only poor person, but it's creating the genuine disability registry. Next slide, please. So next slide, please. Yeah. In Egypt, Takaful and Karama program was launched in 2015 as a please back. This program was based, first of all, on the situation. Well, Takaful, it's solidarity in Arab, and so Takaful part was a conditional cash transfer related to family with children, and conditionality was mainly based on the access to school, to health, etc. And Karama program was more access on the vulnerable groups, such older person with disability, or the orphans, and it was not household household benefit, but it was more individual benefits with the threshold higher compared to ordinary family. But the main issue was that the Karama, for the first time in Egypt, started to use the functional assessment, and this was the most mainly the revolution, because previously the disability assessment was based mainly on the medical factors, and we had a lot of problem with inconsistency or arbitrarity of a decision. So the ministry decided to use this reform in order to clean a little bit the system, and to use additionally to medical assessment the functional disability assessment. And very important point that the ministry decided, because we all speak about the systems, but system can be perfect, but we need to the person who is entering the data in the system should understand what he is entering for data to be consistent. So in Egypt they managed to convince the staff of the medical commissions, because this is one of the most probably difficult point, how to start this functional assessment. So nowadays the program Karama program cover about 1.5 million of household, and 70% of the beneficiary are persons with disability. Next slide, please. As I said, you have 3 different database mainly. They started in Egypt. They started to reform first medical assessment, because even based on previous experience, they introduced the new system of medical assessment, which give the score about the disability, and it was introduced in 2015. In parallel, there was introduced the social assessment, which was based on the proximin testing, and the household and receive the score according to proximin testing in order to identify the poorest household. And finally, in 2018, there was introduced the new model about the functional assessment. And so, if you have the free score for medical assessment, functional assessment, social assessment, you are eligible to Karama in terms of disability. But now they started the next. And in the beginning, the identification was mainly on the person with disability who is the poorest one, actually, according to social assessment. Now the next stage of the reform is to analyze everybody, even if you don't have the social assessment score. Still, you will be registered in the disability registry. So this is exactly how we come from the covering the poors in the beginning and introducing the new instrument about functional assessment, which is not common. I mean, in the middle income country. And afterwards, this coverage of poorest allows to create overall disability registry, which cover now all the population related to disability. So even if you don't have a social assessment, you will not have Karama cash transfer, but you will have some additional services related to card. Next slide, please. So next slide, you can see briefly the evolution of the benefits. So you have a basic value for the family and conditional cash transfer related to Takaful solidarity, and you have and you have Karama, which is actually targeting more individuals inside of the household, and you can see that level of transfer is higher. Now we have the 25% of increase because of the last inflation in Egypt, but the proportion remained the same. Next, please. So based on this reform, as I said, we started with the covering the poorest, and now we are covering the ministry is developing the specialized disability registry. So and the new reform, which is issuing the integrated service card, it started with Karama beneficiary, but it intends to cover all the persons with disability inside of the country. Next, please. So this is once more one of the example for us how we start with the social registry, and afterwards we build progressively up to the disability registry. And if we can arrive afterwards to the different registry and interoperability between them, it's a main solution. So in conclusion, I would like to say that we are happy to see here the example of Chile, and we know that World Bank supported with some analytical works the works related to disability data in social registry. We are now working in a big program in India, in Tamil Nadu, where all this experience presented today will be very, very important. We are working in the country, in the middle income country like Romania, Albania, and Morocco, where we are building, we are helping the government to build the separated disability registry, but we are continuing as well to work in the low income country, where we are trying to start with the social registry and the disability identification inside of the social registry, sites such as Mauritania, Benin, Togo, and Liberia. And in a lot of low-income countries, we are now would like to introduce some kind of carte d'égalité des chances, like in Senegal or in Benin, or disability card like in Morocco. So this open a lot of possibility for creation this kind of interoperability. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you so much for sharing your inputs and experience with us. I would like to now invite our colleague from UNICEF to provide a global perspective. Alexander Cote. He is a social policy specialist, disability and social protection from UNICEF. Over to you, Alex.
Thank you very much. If possible, yeah, I would like actually to share the screen, because I realize I have a lot of click, and that can be a bit cumbersome.
Sure, just give me a minute. I'll let you do that. Yeah, you can now share your slides.
Thank you very much. So many things have been said already that I had in mind. I just wanted to highlight an element that maybe with the beginning on the presentation could have been misconstrued, is that disability benefit and support do not necessarily have to be means tested or poverty targeted. Actually, many countries today are moving towards universal benefit, like Namibia, like Fiji, Vietnam, Nepal, and so on and so forth, most countries in Europe and Central Asia. And that, I think, is a really important element, acknowledging that the diversity of persons with disability across income distribution face disability-related costs that can have a tremendous impact on their participation. So when we look at what social protection should bring to persons with disabilities, we are looking at income security, of course, but also coverage of healthcare costs, coverage of disability costs in ways that facilitate participation. But one of the elements that you all mentioned is basically how do we decide who will need and who will get what? And what we see emerging as a model is basically a set of benefits that would be available for all persons with disability that are registered. For instance, many countries are providing today free healthcare and access to assistive devices for persons with disabilities, with a set of concessions like free public transport, tax exemption, etc., and access to economic empowerment program. And that would be many of the people that would benefit from that would be the people who simply are registered in the disability information system or have, as Andre was saying, the equal opportunity card. In the other hand, many of you mentioned issue of income security and cash transfer for persons with disability who may not in position to work because of the environment, because of their functional difficulties. And this is the type of schemes that are mostly means tested and where the interoperability, for instance, with social registry to be really able to assess the poverty threshold, etc., and the income is really important. And we see emerging, it's there in many high-income countries, but it's emerging in middle-income countries as well, is cash transfer that are universal because they are made to support inclusion and to cover disability-related costs. Less frequently, access to support services like personal assistance or caregiver grants, who also are not necessarily means tested, but would, for instance, benefit from information about the structure of the household, etc. One of the elements also is that person with disability can benefit, as we mentioned, from free healthcare, or they can benefit from assistive technology, etc. And they will that will not necessarily managed by the Ministry of Social Affairs. And as discussed in Chile, it's really important to see how information that are captured in disability registry actually connect with other systems to facilitate eligibility determination. One element that I wanted to mention also, which is particularly important when we talk about climate change, several countries are moving and have in mind, for instance, the use of registries and information system for disaster preparedness, like for instance in the Pacific. And we believe that disability registry can provide very crucial information for disaster preparedness if they are connected and if the people working on disaster preparedness have access to the information, especially, for instance, people who have mobility restriction, that have high support needs, etc. This is very important to see also this connection. So as Andre mentioned, ideally, and coming back to the presentation of Anita at the beginning, what we would like to see in the disability registry is a set of information about the medical condition, the impairment, functional limitation, the support needs, the barrier, the support currently received. But as Andre said, actually, very few countries today have this information in disability registry or database. Most of the time we have type of disability and sometimes severity. There is a score which doesn't provide much information because many people don't really understand how the score has been calculated. And it's really important because of all this conversation on interoperability to really value the diversity of information that would be in the disability registry. And we've seen, for instance, what Félicien was explaining with Rwanda. Cambodia has moved in that direction to a lesser degree. It's basically how we make the most of the time that people with disability and the system is putting in making a disability assessment to really get a diverse picture of the diversity of need, to be able to make the most of the disability registry. And I would like that the person who is not speaking mute themselves. Thank you. And one of the things also that we would like to see more, but this aspect of case management. And I think one element that is very important, we see the fact that information systems are allowing us to leapfrog. There are things that, both in terms of data collection, tablet-based or smartphone-based disability assessment, allow community workers to do more comprehensive assessment than they would be able to do in a paper-based system, which allow the system to be much more accessible. This is a huge progress. And even 7 years ago, we would not dream of that. And today we can. But one of the challenge when we talk about case management and referral, you still need human beings. And we face an issue is that we have information system that develop when we don't have necessarily the social workforce to use the system basically and to make the most of it when it's in place. And I think it's an important element when we talk about interoperability of system is to think also about strengthening the human resources and the personnel at different level of the country in terms of decentralization, who will be using this information and make the most of it. Apologies. Last point that because many of the other things have been mentioned by colleagues, so I don't want to repeat. But few elements that I wanted to highlight. André mentioned about the importance of social protection registries or social registries capturing data about persons with disabilities, like for instance using the Washington Group short set, which will give a sense of what are the households that are very likely to have persons with disabilities. I wanted to highlight, for instance, the example of the Dominican Republic with the SUBEN, where they included a fairly developed module on disability in the social registry, and they did a full analysis of the data. They disaggregated basically the social registry data thanks to disability data to get a profile of the household with person with disabilities compared to household without person with disabilities from the social registry. And it's really important because in many countries, you will have more information, for instance, on this portion of the population, mostly low income. And it's not always easy to get this information. So really, that it's not only case management, it's also basically data analysis and policy planning. Another initiative that I wanted to highlight, it's what taking place now in Sierra Leone, where we have a little bit along the lines of what has happened in Egypt, but in a different way, two processes. The NACSA, which is the National Agency for Social Assistance, with the support of the World Bank, is conducting a mass disability registration. Basically, it's a survey-based, it's not an in-depth individual assessment, but it's basically trying to identify households with persons with disabilities, with, for instance, referral from an organization of persons with disabilities, etc., to try to have a more inclusive targeting of the social assistance as it is. And this has been really triggered also by the challenge that the government had to reach out to persons with disability during the COVID-19 crisis. In the other hand, the Ministry of Social Affairs and the National Commission on Persons with Disability in Sierra Leone is working with UNICEF to develop a disability registry, disability management information, along the line of what is happening today in Rwanda. And we are basically following very closely what's happening in different countries, trying to see what can be done. One challenge we face, again, is the human resource at the local level. And again, we see how the digitization is helping, supporting community workers to be able to do the registration. But we anticipate some challenges at this level. But one thing that will be very helpful, and we already have agreed that for the pilot of the disability assessment, is that we will use the pre-registration that has been done by NACSA for the social registry to refer people with disabilities that have been pre-identified to the disability assessment. Because one of the key issues for disability assessment is basically reaching people, making sure that they are informed about the disability assessment to get the card and that they basically get through it. And having this mass registration that has been done by the social registry mechanism is really helpful to roll out and scale up the disability assessment and determination mechanism. One thing that also we want to see is to which extent the disability registry can interact with health management information system. Many countries are starting to move to individual e-record or e-folder. It's not the case in many countries yet, and we can see, for instance, a huge comparative advantage between those two registries for instance, access to assistive technology. If you are in the medical system and you are identified as a person who needs assistive technology, that probably needs that you could benefit from a disability card or equal opportunity card, you will be referred to the disability registry. In the other hand, you have been assessed by the disability registry or the disability assessment as somebody who may need assistive technology, but you not necessarily have it, or you are not necessarily in contact with the medical system, especially, for instance, for young children. This could be a way to make a referral towards health system. So as of today, we see a lot of potential, and we see countries trying to move towards that. Unfortunately, I think in many contexts, it's still on the idea of, and I think it's a webinar like this and the work that the DCI is doing is very important to raise awareness of this potential so that the different stakeholders can really connect all together. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alexander, for sharing your thoughts and an overview of how UNICEF is processing. I now open the floor for open discussions and questions. Let's see, there are some questions which are there. Let me just make sure that I get them. So there's a question for you, Alex, from Apollo. That are there any technical standards or protocol that can be referred for designing the interoperability between disability registry and other systems?
The question is for me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think to this day, I don't think we have that kind of standards. And I think when we met with Anita and the whole team, I think it was a bit of a mutual disappointment in a sense that we both were expecting that the other would have much more information about what is already happening in terms of interoperability of systems. And I think Andre pointed to the key issue is that while we have had fantastic progress in terms of social protection MIS and social registries in the recent years, disability registry is still lagging. I think we can see in low and middle income countries, this is really an emerging issue. 5 years before, it would have been difficult for me to give you name of countries that really have systems. Nowadays, we have few more, and we see it's really a trend. I expect that 2-3 years from now, we will have many more. And the problem is we still don't have clear standards. And I would say in terms of developing disability registry, the question on shifting from a medical assessment focused system to a functional assessment, how we assess support needs, etc. This is something we are working on. And there are challenges because it's difficult to standardize something that needs to be tailored to the capacity of countries, staff, resource, and institutional systems. And it's much more the tailoring is much more needed for the disability registry than it is for the social registry in terms of what capacities are available at the local level. So that's the first element. And I think the to be able to build standards, you need more experience, you need more practices so that you are able to compare between countries and have this element. So I believe that probably in 2-3 years from now, we will be in position where enough countries have tried, enough countries have learned, so we will be able to elevate that at a level of clear standards, at least in terms of processes. I'm fairly hopeful, especially with everything that the colleagues have shared, that in terms of the technology and the way information could flow, this will come pretty fast. The problem is all the issue around privacy, how much information that you have in disability registry should be able to be accessed by others, especially if you have, for instance, health records that are in the system, etc., etc. So I think that we are getting there, but we need more countries doing it and really experiencing it. What's important is that all of us together are following those experiences so that we can learn together to develop those standards. Over.
Thank you, Alex. We have a hand raised by participant Moboju. Would you like to come in? You are on mute. You can unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yes. Are you hearing me now?
Yes. Yes, we can
hear
you.
Good afternoon, and thanks for the presentations from Andre, Felicia, Veronica, and Andre. Andre, thank you very much for helping to set up a database that for disability in my country, Sierra Leone. I work for the National Social Security and Insurance Trust, NASIT. I read through all the I have been listening to all the presenters, and I have been fortunate to have the document that you have developed to get a way forward for disabilities to have a database. I want to use this opportunity to say thanks to you and the NACSA team. But I was just listening to Felicia from Luanda, and then the Chile case. I may like to say that you need to include, having gone through your documentation, you need to include certain MDAs that are very essential in this part that will lead you to get a clear database and then to get the registration done. NACSA is doing a great job, but there are linkages that I think is not on this document that I would like you to include. If you look at the document clearly and what is happening in Luanda, in Sierra Leone now, since the establishment since the ratification of the Human Rights Commission, and then the formation of the Disability Commission in Sierra Leone, and then the act has been, since the act was passed and then the commission has been formed, they lack the database. That has been confirmed, and NACSA is trying to work on that. And you need to include people that are organizations and MDAs that are really working, that have databases that will be easy for you to use to get this right. If you contact the NCRA, the National Registration Secretariat, they are now doing registrations for the entire citizenry in the country. And in that database, they also acknowledge disabilities, and they also acknowledge the number of disabilities that are doing the registration. And we also have the National Social Security number, which they use from us to get things right. That even all the children that will be born, that have been born, and those that will be born in generations years to come, are going to have a social security number and a NIN number. A NIN number will be the citizenry number. Then when you queue that one, and all the information you want about that individual will appear. So linking with them will happen, and they have also recently formed a health commission, the National Health Commission. I think those ones will be great. Those ones will be great MDAs that will help you to push forward. Notwithstanding, my organization, we deal in the contributing aspect. We also have information about disabilities that we pay. Because we pay all pensions on behalf of government. So if you contact us, our organization, they will also give you, we call them invalidities. We don't call them disabled, we call them invalidities. and then after the war, all those, even those who refer to as war wounded, have been included into the disability payment bill, disability payment payroll, and we pay them on behalf of government. So getting our organization into it, and then NACRA and the National Health Commission plus NACSA, I think the work will be easier for you. Thank you very much. I may come again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mamadou, for sharing that. We have one question for Andre, and that is from Sarah Blinn. I'm not sure if she's here. She wants to speak up.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Sarah, do you want to come in?
Yeah, sure. In fact, my question was really about what comes first, because this question of the medical assessment, it's a lot more difficult to overcome than providing a technological solution to a registry. And often, in my experience, countries want to set up their registry first and maybe not solve the problem of the medical assessment, which is a bigger human rights problem. And so I'm wondering, both Alex and Andre, from your experience globally, what should we do first? In fact, should we go for the quick fix and then hope that the bigger problem will be solved later, or should we do the opposite? Thank you.
Well, I can start, probably Alexander will continue. Well, I think the interoperability, it's a technical problem, and the shift from the medical to functional assessment, it's a paradigm change, actually. I would say technical problem, it's easy to solve, but the paradigm change should be prepared. And we know that even in some country, even if we are using some internationally recognized tools, we need to involve a lot the organization of personal disability and personal disability themselves, because sometimes you will be surprised, because even functional assessment will, because they sometimes they're scared to lose what they have already with medical assessments. And so I would say from technical point of view, we don't have any problem. We need the political will, but afterwards the change of paradigm in the country what I have seen, it's not automatic one. And I will just probably to reply in about the standards. Well, for me as well, because it's a little bit related to that. The standards of interoperability are quite simple, actually. For me, we need to have the unique identification number, and afterwards, once we have the unique identification number, usually, well, afterwards, as Alexander said, well, the existing international tools like WUDAS, or they are providing assessment, but they are not providing the answer which kind of package we need to provide. And this package cannot, it's not something which we can actually copy and paste. The package is related to the country capacity and to the country sense of. But once you have the unique identification number, I mean, you can have this kind of interconnectivity. And what's very important, what Alexander said, is interconnectivity. It doesn't mean that whatever person from social registry can have access to all the data of disability registry. We need to identify the fields and mainly the protocols, how to exchange the information. And we don't, and so the person from the social registry, they don't need to have access to any medical information. They're verifying you have or not the disability status, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
We also have. Yeah, sure.
Sorry, just building on this, I think for me the issue of the information system contribute to some extent to solve also the issue of the shift between the medical model and the functional model to a certain extent. I just want to specify on this. If you are in most, for instance, if to take most sub-Saharan African countries, demanding a medical certificate as an entry point is not only stuck in the medical model, but it's also creating a lot of barrier in access because there is not enough doctors. So the work that we are doing and that many countries are moving towards, like what Félicien was explaining for Rwanda, it's basically to have community workers, community health workers, social workers doing assessments that are not medical by definition, because they might not be equipped in terms of medical knowledge to do so, but that we look at functional limitation and difficulties and basic support needs for activity of daily living. For them to do, and it's still relatively complex, but because this is digitized, because it's app-based, so they have the support of the system, it allows them to do so. And it's also bringing an element of reliability, which is extremely important. Because it's digitized, there are ways of checking how many people are assessed with severe disability in one district compared to another. Is it more? Is it less? So a posteriori, there is capacity of oversight and audit that we didn't have before, and it's in real time. So building the information system can actually help making the shift between medical model to a broader and especially more accessible functional assessment that will increase the coverage of disability registries. The challenge I see sometimes is that we put the tool, the development of the tool, before thinking about who will do it, what kind of mechanism we can put in place, etc. So you can develop a nice tool with a good questionnaire in a Kobo or other kind of digitized system. If you didn't think clearly about the capacity at the local level and how politically also the decision will be made, what is the role of local government, multi-sectoral committees, etc. If this is not done, the system will not work. And so that's very important, that yes, all the digitization and the interoperability can benefit and contribute to this shift and make the system more accessible, but it cannot be the first thing we think about. So I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we have time to take one more question. I'll take it from Crystal Jurilo. If you are there, is there any costing of digitalization and connecting different systems? Anybody wants to to share that, mark to everybody?
I can make an attempt because, I think the cost of digitizing systems varies widely, right? Depending on the type of system that you're building. So the World Bank ID4D has created a costing tool for an ID system, which takes like 10 to 20 parameters, based on which you can decide, you will get some numbers on what it will cost. So similarly, I think for any system, the country context, the scope of the work, all that will need to be taken into consideration for deciding what does it cost to digitize the systems. So there's no simple answer which can be given in this workshop. With this, I think back to you, Komal. Probably we have just 10 more minutes, so probably time to invite the closing speaker.
Sure, Anita, thank you so much. I would now invite Naila. Just a minute.
Thank you very much, everybody, for all your inputs. I will never give justice to all the speakers when I come to do the wrap up. So a big thank you to all of you. Thank you also to everybody who has connected. We had at some point over 74 people connected. So we had a good turnout and many questions also on the chat. So starting with ILO, thank you for organizing these series of workshops by the Digital Convergence Initiative, which focuses on the interaction of the social protection systems with other systems. I understand 4 workshops have been already delivered, and today's 5th workshop was on disability registry. Anita did a great job giving us the global context with some important numbers, that 50% of people globally are living with disability. 80% of them are living in developing countries, and 1 in 5 is living in poverty. I think these are very important numbers to put in context what we are discussing today, and hence the importance of social protection programs to protect this group across the life cycle, whether through contributory or non-contributory schemes. Also, Anita mentioned the difficulties sometimes in assessments, and I think Alex and Andrea also spoke about that assessments are indeed very important tool to be able to link people with the benefits and the programs that they rightly deserve. We then heard from 4 very interesting country examples, starting from India Access to Health project, where they showed to us live a number of platforms, starting with the care services platform, targeting clearly with eligibility on poverty score, and also offering a citizen-centric platform where beneficiaries have a choice actually in what kind of service they are asking for. They also presented the monthly allowance for disabled minors, the benefits for newborns, and also the case management to customize benefits for people with disability. They also highlighted issues of data standards, and I think it was mentioned by several of the speakers, the issues of data privacy, data protection, which is extremely important. Veronica then shared with us the Chile example, and she started by giving us an idea of how big the social registry is in Chile. I think we all envy Chile with the 86% coverage of all the population in the social registry. So this is, to start with, a great achievement. The disability registry also in Chile is not a registry that people are in automatically. We understood that people need to apply, and they go again through a series of functional, social, and performance-based type of eligibility to link people with the services or benefits that they deserve. Rwanda started with a challenge that I think many countries face. Not all countries have ratified UN CPRD, and many countries lack data on disability. So to have a registry and not have data it will not work. So the focus of the project in Rwanda was about developing digital information to collect better data and improve living conditions of people with disability, and also manage better in terms of accountability, interventions, and data coordination. Again, the Rwanda example showed the power of interoperability and integration, especially with the social registry and the SPMIS linking with many other databases such as tax, financial institutions. Also, Rwanda showed the fact that sometimes systems can migrate, and the use case was a good example of how they are trying to move from one system to a different system. And again, issues of data harmonization, data standards, data sharing protocol. Andre then talked a little bit broadly before talking about Egypt, about the commitment of disability inclusion in the bank, but specifically for social protection. The target is that by 2025, 75% of our projects need to be disability inclusive. That's quite an ambitious target. And many of our projects across the bank is working with counterparts to build, social registries, disability registries, but it's work in progress. Both Alex and Andre spoke about the importance of assessments and the shift that is happening in many countries from a purely medical assessment to functional assessments. But again, there are challenges in capacities and implementation. There's also sometimes inconsistencies in data. Andre gave the example of some registries that are not linked to birth and death, just an example. Then Andre shared the Egypt case of Takaful and Karama, which is a cash transfer program launched in Egypt in 2015. And the Karama program is the program that Andre focused on, which did actually the shift from medical to functional. It required a lot of capacity building of the social workers to be able to do this shift. But in Egypt, the benefit is functional assessment plus a poverty score, which is a proxy means test that needs to happen. The Takaful and Karama program also leverages the registries to link people to other services, whether it's economic inclusion or cash plus interventions. Alex started his overview with a very important questions regarding means tested versus universal. I think, Alex, I've had these debates with so many people. I know it's not one size fit all, and I think this particular area deserves much more discussions among us. I tend to agree with what Alex said, that some benefits should not be means tested, like, for example, a caregiver benefit or free healthcare or free transport, but maybe perhaps the cash could be an area where means testing is important. I believe this debate deserves more discussion, because different countries take different routes depending also on financial fiscal space that is available. So many go to the route of means testing for many things because of the cost. Alex made a very important connection between actually climate change and the use of registries for disaster preparedness and disability registries, and how disability registries can be actually leveraged at times of climate disasters for issues related to mobility restrictions, eyesight, and so on. Finally, we've got a few questions from different participants, but I leave you with three big buckets that we all need to think about when we develop any disability registry. It's basically eligibility determination, how and what and who gets what and what is for free and what is not. And then how we will manage all this under a case management and a referral system, and how the services can be brought to people in equitable, efficient, and effective way at both local and also at national level. Thank you, and back to you, Anita or Komal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nela. Thank you so much. I would like to now invite Lena to take us with the way forward steps. Lena.
Thank you so much, Komal. I give you a second to show you the slides. Yes, great. Okay, thanks so much for the discussion. I'm gonna quickly talk you through the way forward. So starting with a little teaser about the upcoming interoperability and action workshops, which will focus on A, social registry, and B, the integrated beneficiary registry. Also very excited to share some news on the initiative. So we kicked off our first standards committee yesterday, focusing on the interoperability of the social protection management information system with the CRVS. We're also working on different other work streams, which you can see on the right here. I will not name all of them, but if you do want to contribute your expertise and support the initiative further, then you're very welcome to do so. Support the consensus building, share your expertise and feedback. Komal, if you could go to the next slide, that would be great. And also concretely, you can participate if you share existing materials, review outputs, join workshops like these, or if you want to submit a draft standard on your own, you're also welcome to do so. Then we as DCI can take it further and build consensus on it through our DCI standards committees. And last but not least, if you want to join a standards committee yourself, feel free to let us know. Stay connected with us through our social media networks. And yeah, we hope to see you soon. Thank you so much for your participation, for your valuable insights, to all speakers. Yeah, I personally enjoyed it a lot. I hope you did as well. Over to you, Komal.
Thank you so much. And I personally thanks all the speakers and country experts and sector experts for sharing their insights and valuable knowledge and experience. Thank you so much. And all the participants for joining us today and sparing their time and listening through us. Thank you so much. And I wish all of you a very good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, depending upon where you are. And see you around on 13th July for our next workshop. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to all of you.
Okay. Okay, thank you all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.